Be too ambitious? Can you set your performance goals too high? Yes, you can. And the effects can be just as detrimental to you and the organization as having goals that are too low. In response to the video I produced last week on innovation in performance management, a new operations director reached out to me seeking advice on how to guide ambitious young employees who are biting off more than they could chew. This week, I'm answering this operation director's question. I'm sharing how you set goals with top talent, with perhaps overly ambitious employees, while you retain and reinforce an emphasis on superior performance, on excellence. One doesn't dumb down the goals, one just has to set the stage appropriately. Let's get started. Thanks for tuning into this channel. If you're in human resources or organizational development, if you're into leadership and team dynamics, or if you just have a real interest in the psychology and skills associated with bringing out the best in your people, you'll want to subscribe to this channel, so hit that button down below. Today we're talking about how to set goals with millennials. In some important ways, the request I received from the new operations director runs counter to the stereotypes that are common regarding millennials. You know, they're all lazy, they have no sense of structure, they want to be on their phones all the time, etc., etc. Instead, this director described a situation he describes as naive ambition. In the email he sent, this director said, "I have seen many new hires in our organization bite off more than they can chew. I've done this myself, and instead of reevaluating commitments, they just say they are fine when they aren't. And the result is that they're overwhelmed, there is burnout, and eventually we need an intervention to reel things in and get back on track. Is there a way to avoid this? Setting individual goals that are ambitious but attainable is a challenging thing to communicate when more junior people are trying to prove themselves with limited experience at that particular role." Now, I can hear it now. Some of you are downright envious of this director's problem, but he does raise an important point. If he wants these millennials to continue to be motivated over the long term, they must set the kind of goals that they can achieve. I created a video about 6 months ago entitled "How Leaders Increase Motivation" that reviewed, among other ideas, Victor Vroom's expectancy theory. Dr. Vroom teaches at the Yale School of Management and is the sharpest knife in the drawer. In brief, his expectancy theory posits 3 beliefs or convictions needed for anyone to dive into a task with gusto. The belief that your efforts will be successful, the conviction that your work will be noticed, and the relative certainty that this will result in some reward that you value. Notice that motivation starts with the belief that you can succeed, and nothing whittles this down quicker than repeated failure, which is guaranteed if you set goals that are truly beyond your reach. Hence my assertion at the beginning of this video that overly ambitious goals can hurt you as much in the long run as goals that are too easy. So what is the answer? How do you appropriately set goals for overly ambitious performers? Some of this comes down to developing trust within your team. When trust is low, we all have to continually prove ourselves to one another, which can lead to ambitious goals, great achievement, as well as missed expectations and burnout. If I were you, I'd sponsor 2 conversations with all of your direct reports at once, assuming that you have a relatively small team. The first conversation would focus on trust and team dynamics. The frame that Pat Lencioni provides in his book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, is a solid one. Find my video on this site entitled "Forget Ground Rules. Here's a Better Way to Start Your Meetings." In that video, I provide a quick overview of team dynamics based on his 5 dysfunctions concepts, which you can summarize or even show the team as a way to start the conversation. For you and your overly ambitious performers to work together well, you're going to have to move beyond posturing to real performance and presenting who they really are, from overly lofty goals to doing one's best that includes both successes and the occasional failure or dropped ball. That's the first conversation, focused on the trust and positive dynamics that undergird the best teams. In the second conversation, I'd address the following points in roughly this order. 1. Share your thoughts about what constitutes excellence on your team, again with an emphasis on real and sustainable achievement. 2, introduce the goal setting process and how they were going to be evaluated over the rest of the year. And since you were responding to last week's video that provided the principles behind a sound performance management process, I'll assume that you'll use something like the framework I shared in that video. 3, have them draft some cascaded goals and some behavioral results that they think are A, aligned with the organizational ends, B, bring the most value, and C, are sustainable over time. Doing so, not only will they be developing better goals, but you're actually developing them in the process. You're giving them an assignment to think strategically, which again can only help them down the road. 4th, tell them that you will also be drafting cascaded goals and behavioral results for each of them, and that you'll meet with them individually in 2 weeks or thereabouts. Then follow up with those individual meetings. Your initial conversation around trust and positive team dynamics, combined with the definition of sustainable excellence and the assignment, should produce goals that are closer to the mark, hopefully still ambitious with a bit more realism infused. You also have your drafted goals for them, which hopefully are close to the ones that they're bringing to you, but even if they aren't, allow you to continue to teach and reinforce the concepts you explained in your earlier whole group conversations. The expected end result, alignment between you and your people about what is expected at a level and requiring their best, but not superhuman and unrepeatable efforts. Over time, success and continued motivation on their part, at which point you can pat yourself on the back quietly because you set them up for that success. And that's it on how to set goals with top talent or with overly ambitious young performers. I welcome your comments on how you bring out the best performance from your best performers and how you keep those levels of motivation over time. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up or hit one of the buttons below to share it with your network. I appreciate the love. Keep bringing your comments and requests, and until next week, be well.